My thighs were sore. My sheets still carried his scent. I could barely walk straight. But for the first time in 20 years, I felt alive. That was the morning after. The sunrise bleeding through my blinds reminded me I had sinned in every possible way. I had crossed a line I could never uncross. I had laid myself bare beneath a man 35 years younger. Not just any man. My son's best friend. His name is Hector. And last night, with slow hands and quiet confidence, he filled a void that had been screaming inside me for more than a decade. My body trembled from his touch. My heart fluttered, then sank. There I was, naked in both body and conscience, his scent on my skin, my heart pounding like I had just committed a crime. And maybe I had. Because what kind of mother spreads her legs for the boy who used to eat pizza on her couch after football practice? I did. And that is only the beginning. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to take a moment to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who subscribes to this channel. You are the fire that fuels this space. To my new and returning viewers who haven't yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Your support gives me the energy to keep these stories flowing, raw, and real. Please hit that subscribe button, tap like, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from you. Let me take you back because how we got here, it's even messier than what happened that night. The beginning of the end. My name is Pauline. I'm 60 years old. I live in a quiet part of Cheyenne, Wyoming, where the wind never stops blowing and the nights are far too silent. I've been a widow for 12 years. My husband, Richard, died in his sleep at just 52. Since then, my body has been more of a memory than a vessel. I kept myself busy with baking, volunteering at church, gardening, all that lonely woman stuff no one ever admits to doing to distract from the ache between their legs. I have one son, Mason, 28, works in construction. Not the most emotionally expressive boy, but a good one. He visits twice a week and often brings his best friend, Hector. Hector, 25, tall, cinnamon brown skin, long lashes like a storybook villain, shoulders built from the gym, but a soft voice that always called me Miss Pauline. He was always polite, respectful, helped me carry groceries when Mason forgot, stayed late to fix the porch light one winter. I never looked at him that way. Not at first. But then I did. Maybe it was his laugh. Or the way he sometimes glanced at me. Not as Mason's mother, but as a woman. That was new. That was dangerous. I kept telling myself, Pauline, stop. That boy could be your son. But loneliness makes fools of us. Especially the kind that stretches across a decade. The kind that makes your own body feel like a stranger. The rain started last Thursday. A storm rolled in from the west. Thunder cracked so loud it shook the picture frames on my wall. Mason had gone out of town on a weekend fishing trip. But Hector showed up uninvited, soaked to the bone, clutching a toolbox, wearing a drenched white t-shirt that clung to every curve of his chest. My car broke down 2 blocks away, he said. I remembered you live nearby. Can I wait out the storm? I should have said no. But I said, of course, come in. He stood in my hallway, dripping water on my floor, smiling sheepishly like some forgotten god of temptation. I fetched him a towel. Our fingers touched. That was the moment something shifted, something primal. The air thickened between us. He peeled off his shirt slowly, wringing it out in my sink. I stared unapologetically. He caught me looking and didn't look away. That was when I knew he wasn't here, just because of the rain. He had come for me. There's a moment when the brain screams stop, but the body whispers something else entirely. That was me standing in my kitchen, watching a towel slip from Hector's hand as he leaned against the counter, dripping rainwater, radiating heat, and looking at me like I wasn't just a woman, but his. I had always believed lust was something that faded with age. That a woman like me, 60, alone, and shrinking into invisibility, should accept that intimacy was no longer meant for her. But that night, standing in my robe, I felt something awaken. He said, "Do you want me to leave?" I should have said yes. I shook my head instead. We ate dinner at the small table by the window. I had warmed up leftover chicken pot pie. He devoured it like it was the best thing he'd tasted all year. I missed your cooking, he said between bites. It tastes like comfort. No one had told me that in years. Not since Richard. Not even Mason. Afterward, I poured us some wine. He talked about work, his dreams. How he had always admired my strength. How I made a home feel like a home. How sometimes he stayed late just to be around me, not Mason. I stared at the glass in my hand. The room was spinning. Or maybe it was my emotions. I laughed awkwardly. You're just being sweet. He leaned closer, eyes locked on mine. No, Pauline. I'm being honest. It happened faster than I could process. 1 minute I was laughing. The next his lips were on mine. Soft, slow, respectful, but filled with an ache I recognized all too well. That hunger. That knowing. He kissed me like he had imagined it 1,000 times. I gasped, my wine glass clinking against the counter. His hand cradled my jaw, gentle, certain. His mouth moved with care, not force. Not a boy fumbling in lust, but a man honoring desire. I pulled back, breathless, trembling. No, I whispered. This is wrong. I'm Mason's mother. Hector nodded, backing away. I understand. I'm sorry. But he wasn't sorry. And neither was I. Because deep down, something had already ignited between us. He slept on the couch that night. At least he pretended to. I tossed and turned in my bed, haunted by what had almost happened. My body ached in places I had forgotten existed. I clutched the sheets between my thighs like they could hold back the flood rising inside me. At midnight, I heard soft footsteps. I sat up. The door creaked. There he was. Hector, standing in the hallway, shirtless again, sweat glistening against his chest in the moonlight from my window. Pauline, he said, voice low. I can't sleep. I keep thinking about you, about your lips, your eyes. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out, because the truth was, so was I. I had thought of nothing else. He stepped closer. I sat at the edge of my bed, heartbeat drumming like thunder in my ears. You want me to leave? He asked again, this time softer. My robe was loose. I felt the air kiss my thighs. I saw his eyes trail downward. Not like a boy lusting after something forbidden, but like a man witnessing something sacred. I shook my head slowly. No, Hector. I don't want you to leave. I stood, letting the robe slide off my shoulders, pooling silently at my feet. My body, wrinkled, scarred by childbirth, softened by time. Yet in his eyes, I saw awe. He stepped forward, wrapped his arms around my waist, and whispered, "Let me show you what you've been missing." He kissed me again, this time deeper, with no hesitation. And when he laid me down, it wasn't rough. It wasn't rushed. It was worship. Every inch of my body remembered what it meant to be wanted. Not used. Not pitted. Wanted. His hands moved with reverence. His lips traced forgotten parts of me. I moaned softly, shocked at how alive I still was under touch. I whispered his name between breaths. But even in the passion, a storm brewed within me. Because what we were doing, it would change everything. By the time his head rested against my chest, we were tangled in silence and heat. But then, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Mason. Hey, Ma. Fishing trip got cut short. Be home tomorrow morning, I gasped.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow my son would walk through the front door, and Hector would still be here beside me. Naked, and no longer just his best friend. I woke up to sunlight slipping through the blinds, streaking across Hector's bare back. His breathing was steady, slow, like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. Because lying there with him wrapped around me wasn't just a sin, it was a secret that could destroy everything. Mason would be home in 3 hours. I sat up carefully, my body aching in places that hadn't felt fire in years. Hector stirred beside me, stretching with a sleepy smile that made my stomach flutter. Good morning, beautiful, he whispered. I should have been thinking about guilt.
About shame.
Regret. But instead, I felt powerful. I felt seen. We made love again. Slower this time. No rush, just exploration. Devotion. Hector was gentle, attentive, his lips traveling from my collarbone to my thighs like a man on a pilgrimage. I whispered his name like a prayer. I had forgotten what it felt like to be devoured without apology, to be seen not as something worn down by age, but as someone sacred. My curves weren't baggage in his hands. They were a blessing. This wasn't just sex. It was restoration. When it was over, he held me. His fingers traced the stretch marks on my stomach. He kissed each one. "You are the most beautiful woman I have ever touched," he said. I wanted to cry, but I smiled instead. Because for the first time in over a decade, I didn't feel invisible. While Hector was in the shower, I went downstairs to make coffee. I wore nothing but a robe and a smile, until I saw something on the living room table that made my heart stop cold. His watch. Not just any watch, the one I'd seen him wear every day, sitting out in the open beside the TV remote. Just then, keys jingled at the front door.
No, no, no.
It was too early. I rushed to the window and saw Mason's truck pulling into the driveway. My fingers scrambled to grab the watch, stuff it into the kitchen drawer, wipe down the counters. I called up the stairs, panic rising in my throat like smoke. "Hector, get dressed now." He came down 2 minutes later. His hair was damp, slicked back. His shirt only half-buttoned. His face was calm. "Relax," he whispered, kissing my cheek. "Let me handle this." Mason walked in, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. "Hey, Ma. Storm was bad, so we came back early. You okay?" I forced a smile. "Yes, just got up." His eyes darted to Hector, standing casually in the kitchen. "You stayed here?" Hector nodded.
Yeah.
"My car died in the storm. Your mom was kind enough to let me crash here." I could barely breathe. Mason frowned. "You too good." I wanted to scream.
To cry.
To confess. But Hector stepped forward, clapping Mason on the back. "All good, man. Nothing happened. Just trying to dry off and survive the storm." Mason seemed to buy it, or pretended to, but I saw it. The flicker of doubt in his eyes. The way his gaze lingered on the 2 coffee cups. The kitchen drawer I had forgotten to close. Something had shifted. Mason left that afternoon, saying he had errands to run. He barely made eye contact with me. Hector stayed until sundown. Then he leaned against the doorframe and said, "I meant what I said last night, Pauline. This wasn't just a one-time thing for me. But I understand if you need space. If this was too much." I wanted to say no.
To beg him to stay.
But instead, I kissed him, soft, slow. "I don't know what this is yet," I said, "but I know what it meant to me." He smiled, then walked to his car. And just like that, the house was quiet again. But not the same. That night, I sat alone in my kitchen with a cup of tea. My body still hummed from his touch. My mind replayed every second. I had broken every rule I thought I lived by. But for once in my life, I had chosen myself. I had silenced the world's expectations of what a 60-year-old widow should want or feel. And in the arms of a man who saw me not as a relic, but as a woman, I had come back to life. Infidelity is not always black and white. Sometimes, it's born from years of silence, of emptiness, of the desperate need to feel like you matter again. What I did may not have been right, but it was real. It was mine, and it reminded me that I was still capable of desire, still worthy of being wanted, still alive. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you risk it all for one night of truth? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, raw, romantic, and unfiltered. Thank you for listening. And remember, even the quietest hearts still burn.